66 million years ago, Earth was a masterpiece of biological engineering, a stable greenhouse.
But the cosmos does not respect biological perfection. A rogue variable enters the system. A 6-mile-wide rock, traveling at 45,000 miles per hour. The air in front of it is compressed so intensely, it transforms rapidly into pure plasma.
From the edge of space to the ocean floor in less than 2 seconds. The impact is faster than the speed of sound. The destruction arrives before the noise. 10 billion nuclear weapons detonating simultaneously. Solid bedrock flows like water. The Earth's crust ripples like a carpet, shattering mountains into dust. The impact punches a hole through the atmosphere, ejecting the crust into the vacuum of space. Then comes the thermal radiation pulse, a wave of pure, blistering light.
Across the continent, forests spontaneously combust. No spark required, just the sheer radiant heat.
The internal pressure of biology becomes a bomb. Fleeing the line of sight offers no true escape.
And then, the sound of the apocalypse finally catches up.
Propelled upward, only to witness the sky falling. The crust of the Earth returns from orbit as kinetic artillery.
Vaporized stone condenses in the vacuum, falling back as trillions of glowing glass beads. Tektites.
The friction of a trillion falling glass bullets turns the atmosphere into a global oven. A relentless, powerful cascade of molten glass pours down across the continent. The rain brings absolute thermal shock. The surface of the planet is entirely sterilized in a matter of hours. The extreme heat breeds erratic, hyper-violent weather. A kinetic centrifuge of ash, glass, and fire. Caught in the crushing heart of the firestorm. Ejected from the fire, hurled toward the boiling sea. The ocean retreats, pulled back to fill the 100-mile-wide wound in the crust. Exposing the hidden depths, scarred by the seismic impact. The Earth violently settles its new fractures. And then, the ocean returns. A 1,000-foot wall of kinetic black water, moving with the force to strip bedrock from the continent. Swallowed into a lightless, boiling blender of stone and ocean. Momentum is absolute in the dark. The wave pushes inland, fighting the firestorm with brute force. The fires die, but they leave behind a choking shroud. The sun is blocked entirely, from a global furnace to an instantaneous, absolute freeze. The impact winter. The cold becomes a new, crushing weapon. A dead, frozen world, suspended in total darkness. But the kinetic shockwave penetrated deep.
The mantle prepares to respond. The kinetic shockwave travels through the Earth, converging precisely on the exact opposite side. The antipodal convergence. The crust shatters from within. The shockwave triggers the Deccan Traps, a volcanic eruption on a continental scale. Flood basalt flows like a supersonic river, consuming the frozen wasteland.
The magma meets the frozen sea, a collision of extreme thermal opposites. Thermal expansion violently weaponizes the frozen ice, ejected into a sky that is actively turning to poison. The sulfur mixes with the ash. The chemistry of the sky mutates. The clouds give birth to hyper-acid rain. A deluge of pure acid, falling with enough concentration to dissolve solid rock in real time. The rain dissolves the structural integrity of the continents. The acid carves the earth from the inside out. A subterranean network collapsing under the weight of chemical erosion. The acid river finds the raw metals of the mantle. The contact triggers an absolute chemical combustion deep underground. Propelled to the coast, where the weight of the new rock forces the continent to sink. The displaced oceans return, violently claiming the sinking land.
Volcanoes swallowed by the sea create boiling, kinetic vortices.
Thermal shock shatters the pillars of the deep.
Beneath the waves, the ocean turns to acid. The foundation of the food web simply dissolves. The apex predators are erased from the biological record. Underwater magma fields advance like a solid wall of inflating glass. The lava finds the frozen methane stores. The seabed detonates. Millions of tons of volatile methane are launched toward the surface.
The atmosphere is saturated, a planetary powder keg, waiting for a spark. The friction of the ash clouds delivers the spark. The spark ignites the gas, and the entire sky catches fire. The fire clears the darkest of the ash. But the relief is a deception. The suit falls. The sun returns. But the carbon remains, creating an impenetrable thermal blanket. The deep freeze instantly snaps into a hyper-greenhouse summer. The planet begins to bake. Thermal expansion shatters the dry crust. Dropped into a sterile, sun-baked wasteland. The true aftermath. The extreme heat breeds global dust storms, moving with the force of hurricanes. A kinetic sandblaster, erasing the last physical monuments of the previous era. The wind tears down the heavy stone. The boiling oceans load the atmosphere with water vapor. The mega-monsoons gather. The sky collapses under the weight of the water. The ultimate deluge. The rains wash the continents clean, pooling into vast, sterile seas. The mountains surrender to the flood. The rains cease, leaving a hyper-humid hothouse. The Earth begins digesting the kinetic trauma. The extreme surface heat bakes the mud into a brittle seal, trapping volatile gases below. The decaying biosphere and tectonic shifting build unimaginable subterranean pressure. The pressure violently fractures the seal. Driven into the recovering oceans. But the calm surface is a deception. The oceans suffer from severe stratification, separating the living water from a toxic abyss. Gravity pulls the toxic, carbon-heavy brine down the continental slopes. The sheer mass of the dead water triggers kinetic avalanches in the deep. Ejected onto a rising coastline, the crust is undergoing isostatic rebound. Relieved of the flood weight, the mantle pushes the continents back toward the sky. The upward momentum forces the solid bedrock to stretch until it shatters. The Earth violently adjusts its spine. The rebounding crust is immediately affected by the carbon-saturated atmosphere. Chemical weathering rapidly builds massive, unstable monuments of precipitated limestone. But the chemistry works too fast, creating structures that cannot support their own kinetic weight. Gravity swiftly reclaims the unstable rock architecture. The chaotic weather organizes into focused, high-velocity, atmospheric rivers. Narrow bands of supersonic moisture acting as planetary water cutters. The concentrated kinetic force physically strips the mountains bare. The mountains are stripped down by erosion, by brute force. Driven underground into the hollow veins of the recovering crust. The Earth is hollowed out from below, turning the surface into a fragile trapdoor. The tectonic vibrations push the structural integrity to absolute zero. The surface collapses into the void. Buried in the crush, where extreme pressure generates piezoelectric fire. The trapped quartz builds a lethal, localized charge. Navigating a minefield of geological electricity. The extreme pressure of the quartz violently discharges. Ejected onto the harsh, transformed badlands of the new era. The deepest wounds of the Chicxulub impact finally begin to close. The continents grind together, sealing the fractures with unimaginable kinetic friction. The fault locks. The kinetic energy is released instantly. The seal holds, but it traps highly pressurized gas beneath the surface. A subterranean pocket of carbon dioxide reaches absolute critical mass. The crust reaches the breaking point. The final purge of the crust. we have witnessed the absolute end of the third violent phase.
Back in the modern era, sensors scan the subterranean crust for the dark line. The KPG boundary, a global marker made of cosmic iridium and vaporized stone. But the deep strata still hold the volatile pressure of the ancient apocalypse. The shockwave cascades upward, destabilizing the automated grid. Modern infrastructure surrenders immediately to the raw momentum of the Earth. A cascading systemic failure, erasing the illusions of control. Technology dissolved in a microsecond flash of energy. Propelled into the sky as time loses all linear constraints. The planetary cycle accelerates to the absolute limit. Eras blur into seconds. The local star enters its terminal phase, swelling into a red giant. The heavens are purged in a flash of stellar plasma. The Earth is consumed. The geological slate is entirely rewritten in the furnace of the star. History is dismantled at the atomic level. The outward pulse dies. Gravity wins the stellar war. The supernova. The ultimate kinetic execution. A cosmic reset wave, expanding across the dark void. Drawn toward the absolute center of gravitational erasure. Past the threshold where space and time switch dimensions. The point of zero volume and infinite mass. The universe tires of the void. The big crunch begins. Space compresses. Galaxies grind together in a macro-scale centrifuge. The vacuum itself reaches stellar temperatures. The final collision of the cosmic epoch. Everything that ever was, compressed back into a single spark.
We wait in silence for the final pause before the reset.
With a massive explosion, the cosmic forge is finally relit. Energy hardens into the first elements. Gravity resumes its endless work. A new solar system forms. A primitive world is born from kinetic chaos. The crust solidifies. Water falls from the sky. The definitive strike. Resetting the geology, forging the moon.
The architecture stabilizes into a pristine blue world.
And now, the ancient geological record begins completely anew. Watch closely and witness the grand design of the cosmic cycle.
Subscribe now for more deep dives into the prehistoric world.